This Farbrengen is from 1992, right before the Rebbe's stroke. It is the last Farbrengen Leisata that the Rebbe gave. And it's interesting, a few things that the Rebbe did before his stroke, which indicated that the Rebbe knew, not just that we know that the Rebbe knows, but the Rebbe actually did things he could see. The Rebbe was preparing for the stroke. The Rebbe cleared his desk a few weeks before. The Rebbe also, unusually, this Farbrengen was not edited by the Rebbe, but unusually, the Rebbe edited the summary that was given. They used to give the Rebbe a summary of the Farbrengen after Shabbos, and they also would give the Rebbe the whole Farbrengen they typed up for the Rebbe to edit. So the summary, which was given right away, the Rebbe edited it right away, right before the stroke. So we do have a summary that was edited by the Rebbe, but the actual words of the whole Farbrengen were not edited. On the other hand, this was set up for the Rebbe to edit. So it's, although it's not edited, but it's in the style of the way the Rebbe's Farbrengens were edited. Okay, let's go. It's also like this year, Parshas Shkolim, Parshas Vayakhel, and it's Chafei Yoder the Shabbos, right? Chafei Yoder? Chafei Yoder is the Shabbos, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Chafei Yoder is the Shabbos. Okay. So there begins to address the relationship between Parshas Shkolim and Parshas Vayakhel. Let's go. The common denominator, the Parshas Vayakhel and Parshas Shkolim have, as in this year, where we read the section in the Torah about giving half coin, and the Parsha of Vayakhel, Shabashtayin, Chaim Chaim. Thank you very much. In both Parshas Vayakhel and in Parshas Shkolim, there's an emphasis on the unity of the Jewish people and their unity vis-a-vis the building of the tabernacle, the creation tabernacle. With Parshas Vayakhel, Mishkal Dasnei Yisrael, V'Gimer V'Yim Yisrael, Kol Nas Yisrael, V'Kum T'Chum Hashem, HaKol Kol Yisrael, L'Tzorech Nivus Malchus Mishkal. Parshas Vayakhel, Moshe Rabbeinu gathers the Jewish people together and asks them to donate to the cost of the Mishkan, or actually not the cost. People gave items from their home to build the Mishkan. It would be amazing to see someone make a video, Parshas Vayakhel, all the Yidden going home, bringing their things to, you can picture it, everyone come to Moshe, we're going to build a place for Hashem. Imagine I'm going home and doing that. And anyways, so Parshas Vayakhel is about the Jewish people gathering together in front of Moshe Rabbeinu.
Amazing event.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it seems to us like a dry Torah portion because there's no Rashis on it. It's all, it's a repetition. We heard this before. But the actual event, the Parshas Vayakhel, you can get it gathering together to do this and going home and bringing to Moshe Rabbeinu. It's just an amazing thing. Rabbi Levitin from Seattle, I was at his house 30 years ago, and he was describing to me about how, I think it was his grandfather, he, after Shabbos afternoon, after the shul was, all need to be cleaned up because of the Farbrengen, because of the davening, whatever it was, and how he gathers children together and say, now we are cleaning the shul. And they're like, he was like so excited, we get to clean the shul. It sounded like it wasn't like a Huckleberry Finn. It sounds like he was actually like excited about it. So much so that I remember this 30 years later, hearing how he described how his grandfather said this. Anyways, imagine the Yidden with Moshe Rabbeinu. Now we're going to build a place for Hashem. You imagine the excitement. Anyways, they're all gathered together in Parshas Vayakhel to do this. That's Parshas Vayakhel. What's Parshas Shkolim?
And you see the results of how they gave. They're so excited to give jewelry, money.
Right.
Continues to skype.
Well, Parshas Shkolim, Kisis is Eshmei Yisrael games that you call Machzah Shaktim Hashem. In Parshas Shkolim, that's when Moshe Rabbeinu gathered Jewish people together. That everyone should give a half coin towards building the sockets of the Mishkan. Everyone gave a half coin to purchase the Adonim, to make the sockets, the silver sockets. The foundation that the whole tabernacle stands on. And it also is a commandment every year to give a half coin to purchase the sacrifices that were brought every single day. Everyone, since there was a communal sacrifice brought on behalf of all the Jewish people every day, so everyone participated and gave a half coin towards these costs of these communal sacrifices, which is the main component of the Beis Hamikdash and the Mishkan, the sacrifices. So Parshas Vayakhel is about them being gathered together to build the Mishkan in general, and Parshas Shkolim is about everyone participating in the sacrifices, a major component, and or originally the first commandment was for the socket, which is the foundation of the tabernacle. Let's understand the relationship between Parshas Shkolim and Parshas Vayakhel specifically, not Parshas Shkolim as it relates to the sometimes joint Vayakhel Pekudei, but this year where Parshas Shkolim is connected to Parshas Vayakhel distinct from Vayakhel Pekudei. It would seem that the content of Parshas Shkolim has a relationship more to Parshas Pekudei than to Parshas Vayakhel. So we need to understand the connection between Parshas Shkolim to Parshas Vayakhel when it seems it has more of a connection to Parshas Pekudei. First of all, why does it seem more relevant to Pekudei? Key. Parshas Shkolim Medubar as Bnei Yisrael. Parshas Shkolim talks about the Jewish people being counted. Everyone gave the half coin, and through the coins, the Jewish people were counted. That's a shana of Mailim. Shutapas Lagba Kabas Kuyonim. That's Kameim. You can collect a machs a shekel of tin as a shkom metadim in yonim. Derech Hamein Mavinus Anin Zeh Achazachu. When you want to know the number of the Jewish people, everyone gives a half coin, and that's how we will get the sum total of the Jewish people. Torah says you're not supposed to count people directly, so everyone should give a half coin. Interesting thing that everyone said that there are two verses that are used to count people for a minyan. We don't count Jews together, come together for a minyan. We're not supposed to count people directly. So there's two verses. One verse is Vanis Filasi, which are verses about prayer. And the other verse is Ashia Samecha. And the Jewish custom is we count people Ashia Samecha, even though Vanis Filasi also has 10 words. The reason that everyone uses that verse is because when Jews get together, the first thing they think about is Ashia Samecha, save your people, bring Mashiach. That's the natural feeling that Jews are meant to have, and that's why. Oh, is there a meaning? Shia esamecha. Okay. What do you mean? So that seems to have a relevance more to Parshas Pekudei, because Parshas Pekudei is where we get the sum total of all of the donations for the Mishkan. We get a sum total of what the half coin of each of the Jewish people equaled up to. In Parshas Parshas Pekudei, it's about the sum total of the donations. This is the amount of Jews there were 600,000 Jews, and this is how much they gave. Each one gave a half coin, and the sum total is 100 kikar. A kikar measurement of silver, that's what you get when you add all the half coins together, which was the sum total of 600,000 Jews. So Parshas Shkolim really finishes in Parshas Pekudei. Parshas Shkolim is where they give the half coin, and Parshas Pekudei is where you have the sum total, what everybody gave. And therefore, it would be more appropriate, it would seem, to read Parshas Shkolim on Parshas Pekudei. And the extra Torah portion, when it talks about the half coin, it would seem more appropriate for that to be in Parshas Pekudei, where we have the sum total of the donations of the half coin. Rashi says that the first donation, it says in the Torah the word donation 3 times. And Rashi says that the three times the Torah mentions the word donation is for 3 different kinds of donation. The donation that everyone gave, whatever they wanted to give, towards the construction of the tabernacle itself. The half coin that everyone gave towards buying the sockets, and the half coin that was given every year towards the purchase of the sacrifices. So Rashi says that the word truma, the first truma, is referring to the half coin that was given towards purchasing the sockets. So the conclusion of Parsha Shkolim is in Parsha Shkolim, where you have the sum total of what everyone donated. So therefore, it would seem more appropriate to have Parshas Shkolim read on Parshas Pekudei. Mashenk Parsha Vayakhel. Shabo Megeshes Kol Kol As Misom Misisachas Shal Kal Loshen Kosev Kal Loshen Yochel Lik Pudei Eda Adei Shamin Necholach Vechad Tzarich Lavan Sheichus Parshas Shkolim Shabo Medura Is Min Miso. However, Parshas Vayakhel, the emphasis of Vayakhel is how the Jewish people gathered together and they became a new entity. They became one people. It's about them, not what each person gave individually. Rather, it's about them becoming one entity, a community. Not about what each person donated and the sum total of what everyone gave, which is Parshas Pekudei. Rather, about all of them being classified and becoming one community. So Parshas Shkolim is the opposite. Parshas Shkolim is about everyone's individual identity and their contribution. Their number, how many Jews are there? That's the theme of Parshas Shkolim. How many Jews are there? What is everyone doing? There's Yankel gave a half coin, Shmerel gave a half coin, Beryl gave a half coin. We're counting each person. So we're not talking about the community, we're talking about the individual. Parshas Vayakhel, on the other hand, emphasizes the community. So we have Parshas Vayakhel and Parshas Shkolim coming together, which seem to be incongruous with each other. The emphasis of Parshas Shkolim is how everyone is individual. The emphasis of Parshas Vayakhel is how we're all one community. Vayakhel, we all become one community. So why do we read Parshas Vayakhel on Parshas Shkolim and Parshas Vayakhel? Yeah.
Shkolim the same as Pekudei? This was really
In the last Torah portion we read this last week, Parshas Kisisa, there's a section where Hashem commands us to give a half coin.
Right.
That Torah portion is one of 4 Torah portions. I should have said this in the beginning, I'm sorry. It's one of 4 Torah portions that are read once a year, a second time. So in addition to reading on the Shabbos of Parshas Kisisa, we also take out one Torah portion we take out 2 Torahs of Shabbos, and we read again just a section about the half point.
Is it added to an existing Aliyah or?
It's after all the Aliyahs.
The mafta.
The Mafta.
The Mafta with the
Shkolim. So the question is, if you're going to add it to 1 week, add it to the week which talks about the sum total of the donations towards the of the half coins. Why do we read this Torah portion which talks about each individual and how each individual gave a half coin in a Torah portion which is titled the community?
Yeah.
Seems the community is about like ignoring the individual, but underscoring each person's individual gift and ignoring the idea that we're all together. Putting them together seems to be incongruous. They're 2 different points, and they seems not to. That doesn't say that they're a contradiction, but it seems not that they're for sure incongruous to each other. One's emphasizing the individual, one's emphasizing the community. So why do we read Parshas Shkolim and Parshas Vayakhel? Base. But first, let's explain the theme, the distinction between Parshas Vayakhel Pekudei as Vayakhel Pekudei are applied to our lives. We're supposed to take it to heart not just what the Torah is telling us, but also the titles of each Torah portion. Something very unique in the Rebbe's teachings, where the Rebbe doesn't just learn a lesson from the content of the Torah portion, but looking at the name of the Torah portion by itself and what you're learning and applying that to your take Yitein Aliboy, as it says in today's Hayom Yom, that a chassid is someone who knows what they're missing and they pay attention with their heart to figure out how to complete, how to fix up what's not there. So what is Vayakhel and Pekudei What's the difference between the instruction of Hashem by the name Vayakhel and his instruction by the name Pekudei? What is it? What is he telling us? So Neisva Pirush Vayakhel Pekudei Teich Naksuvim. B'Shviyakhel Koyal Hakol Bnei Yisrael Vayakhel Mishkal Nas Bnei Yisrael Pekudei Koyal Min Nis Mishkal El Pekudei Mishkal Sheshagam Pirush El Veiro B'Hashem Vayakhel Pekudei Shal Atzam Nagil Kos Vayis Nokei. The simple meaning of Vayakhel is talking about the Jewish people gathering. The simple meaning of Pekudei, the number of the donations to the tabernacle. So one's talking about the gathering of the Jewish people, Vayakhel. The other is talking about the sum total of the donations. Besides the translation of Vayakhel and Pekudei as they are in context of the verses that they're in, there's also the meaning of each of the words Vayakhel and Pekudei and how they apply to our lives. Looking at the words Vayakhel and Pekudei by themselves, we're not talking only about Vayakhel vis-a-vis gathering the Jewish people together, but also Vayakhel as gathering together all of the items of the Mishkan. We're not looking at Pekudei only as the sum total of the donations to the Mishkan. We're also looking at Pekudei as the individuals that were counted through the half shekel. In other words, although the simple meaning of Pekudei is referring to not the Jewish people, but referring to the items, the sum total of the items that were donated, but let's look at Pekudei as it applies to our lives, not just in the context of the verses. So, although Vayakhel is referring to the Jewish people, and Pekudei is referring to the items, the sum total of the items, we're going to learn something from the names Vayakhel and Pekudei themselves. Vayakhel not only referring to the Jewish people, but also all the items donated. And Pekudei not just referring to the items donated, but also as it refers to the counting of the Jewish people. In the donations and the creation of the tabernacle, we have in these two Torah portions, the content of these two Torah portions, we have everything that is pertinent to our service of God. Both what you do as an individual in your own personal tabernacle, that as Hashem tells us in the Torah, make me a sanctuary, I'll dwell within them. Doesn't say I'll dwell within it, but within every single individual. That everyone individually has to make a home for Hashem in their lives. And there's also in this, the content of this Torah portion, what we need to do in the world at large, not just in our own homes, in our own self, in our own tabernacle, own personal tabernacle, but what we're meant to do in the world at large. Just like in the creation of the tabernacle, there were 13, or another interpretation, 15 items that were used for the tabernacle. So too in our lives, there are also things in our lives, not just in our own personal home, but in the world that we're in the part of the world that we are connected to. There is something the Torah is telling us. It's in this Torah portion as well. Not just our own individual personal service of Hashem is in this Torah portion, but also our impact in the world around us is also in this Torah portion. More importantly, and another point, which is also important, okay, that too many people pull him. Sometimes the Rebbe says, another point, and this is the main point. Sometimes the Rebbe says, another point, and this is also important, another point and a main point, which is as follows. Come inside, the water is fine. A Jewi's service of Hashem, every individual Jewish service of Hashem has to be done in a way that you unite with all the Jewish people. As the Torah commands us, love your fellow like yourself. And this is a fundamental principle in Torah. And to the extent that this is called the entire Torah. You as an individual have to serve Hashem in a way that you unite all the Jewish people. And also, you need to influence other people to do the same. In other words, it's the word, let me speak very briefly, but elsewhere in Chassidus, it says that when you daven, for example, I think that was going to address this also later on in the Farbrengen. When you daven, you always don't ask for yourself. You ask for everybody. Help us, save us, heal us, bless us. The emphasis of the us is that whenever we're serving Hashem, we unite with all the Jewish people. Our neshama is talking in davening. Davening is written in the language of the neshama, and that's why we're not only asking for ourselves just selfishly, but we're asking for everybody. But also, the point that's being underscored is that our service of Hashem has to be done in a way that we unite with everybody else. Hashem's desire is, as he says, I want you to make me a sanctuary and I'll dwell within them. So he wants to dwell within all the Jewish people. He wants to dwell within the entire world. All the Jewish people are adding together, all the Jewish people together, each person making their area in the world a home for Hashem, that causes the entire world to become a home for Hashem. And the general way we serve Hashem is in two ways. There's the Vayakhel way of serving Hashem, and there's the Pekudei way of serving Hashem. Vayakhel hakol shkol esek nafshe v'gimel v'shem achshadim ma'isa kol misol kol yin elam shnatzis kol shom neisol mishkan kul cheshvan kol pratu prat kol yin elam kol ach v'ach misol kol pratu prat shom elam kates matzim prat b'mishkan. The emphasis of Vayakhel is that you gather together everything in your life, your 10 soul powers, your 3 intellectual soul powers, your 7 emotional soul powers, your 3 garments of your soul, your thought, speech, and action. And not just you gather your own, but all the Jewish people gather together. Not just Jewish people gather together, but everything in the world is gathered together. And they did this. The meaning of Vayakhel is that everything inside of me and everything inside of all the Jewish people, everything in the world is gathered together to become a tabernacle for Hashem. Vayakhel emphasizes the cohesive unity of all of existence to become a tabernacle for Hashem. That's the theme of Vayakhel. The theme of Pekudei is not about how the holistic effort to put it all together to be given to Hashem. Pekudei is about reckoning each detail of the matters of your life, of all the Jewish people, each detail of the world, and how to use that specific detail for the tabernacle. One, Vayakhel emphasizes the overarching unity of all of existence becoming a home for Hashem, and Pekudei emphasizes the unique contribution of each individual thing. You got it? Yes or no?
Yeah, I guess. I could repeat back what you said. I think it seems pretty.
Let me explain it in more detail.
It doesn't feel like. Yeah, I get. Yeah, you very
what this means practically we wouldn't get to, but just the theme of Vayakhel is how everything becomes one, the unity of all of existence.
Yes.
The theme of Pekudei is the unique contribution of each detail of creation. And there are 2 different perspectives to these 2 things that we just mentioned. One is Vayakhel Pekudei k'fi sh'nasim parsha achas, aveda achas. There is Vayakhel and Pekudei as they become one Torah portion. And that's why many years Vayakhel and Pekudei are read as one Torah portion. And then there is Vayakhel Pekudei k'fi parsha b'shana Vayakhel. There are 2 separate Torah portions. Vayakhel is one and Pekudei is the other. That they're not the same. That they're not connected. That one is done in one week and one is done in the other week. But at first glance, you may want to classify Vayakhel Pekudei as klal uprat. Klal uprat means is one of the 13 ways Torah can be interpreted, which is, as we say before davening every day, klal uprat means that there is the perspective of the whole and there's a perspective of the individual. Vayakhel is looking at things as the sum total, and Pekudei is about the details, and the whole is the sum of its parts. It would seem that Vayakhel is just the sum total of the details of Pekudei. In a year where Vayakhel Pekudei are read together, so the emphasis is how the community is made up of individuals, and you can't have any part. You cannot have a community without each individual contributing, and each individual is part of the community. And so there's nothing in the sum total which is not in the individual, and there's nothing which is an individual part which is not included in the sum total.
Yeah.
That's how we would view it if Vayakhel Pekudei were together, and that has that lesson in that year. Well, as I mentioned, another time that not just for that year, but there's lesson every year as well. But the highlighted lesson for this year is the way that they are separated. And what's the lesson of Vayakhel Pekudei being separated? Aval. Since in many years we do read Vayakhel in a separate Torah portion, and only in the next week we read Parshat Yud. There is something about Vayakhel which has its own unique meaning, unrelated to Pekudei, and in that year, the content of Vayakhel is explained and highlighted and complemented with the Torah portion of Shkol. So before we go, Mr. Shem, tomorrow into the unique lesson from Vayakhel individually, let's just go over briefly what I think is the message of Vayakhel Pekudei as they are united. Everyone said that the sign of a Jewish leader is that for a Jewish leader, Reb Yisrael and Klal Yisrael are the same. Mr. Yisrael and Klal Yisrael, which means all the Jewish people are the same. Doesn't look at there's all the Jewish people, that's important, and then there's one individual, and that's so important. For a leader, the individual and the community are the same. Doesn't look at one individual as, I'll never forget. Once there was a Lag BaOmer fair on the street of Kingston Avenue, and the guy who was organizing the entire thing, he's in charge of this booth. There's thousands of kids, there's parents, and in the middle of the whole thing, the guy stops. He sees a kid without a yarmulke. He's like, yarmulke. It's like he didn't forget about the individual of what's going on just because he's looking at the colossal thing that he was doing with everyone together. So Vayakhel Pekudei, as they're united, emphasizes that as the idea of each individual contributing to the community. Everyone can't just live by themselves and say I'm doing my own thing. In the Yiddish expression, you can't make Shabbos by yourself and do your own thing. We all create the environment together. We'll help each other. That's Vayakhel Pekudei is about the individuals creating the community and the community looking for the needs of the individual. I think I'm sure there are many other talks there about that subject, but this year the emphasis is on Vayakhel, the general theme of uniting all of existence to become a home for Hashem, and that somehow relates to the idea of the half coin. What that practically means, Mr. Hashem, let's see what time it is. That's Mr. Hashem, get to what that means, Mr. Hashem, tomorrow.
Wait, this year again, what?
Vayakhel is read in a separate Torah portion, and that's what we have Parshat Shkol. Somehow the theme of Vayakhel, the general theme of Vayakhel is how not looking at the individual contribution of each thing in the world, but the general theme of all existence becoming a home for Hashem.
But the fact that it's separated this year, what is the lesson in that it's separated?
We didn't highlight exactly what it means, but the general theme is that we're not talking about the unique contribution of each individual thing, rather how all of existence becomes collectively together a home for Hashem. That's the theme of Vayakhel. Versus Pekudei, which is about each individual thing, item, rock, plant, tree, every individual thing, how it's used to serve Hashem. That's the theme of Pekudei. And Vayakhel is the opposite. It's about the holistic unity of all creation becoming home for Hashem. That's the emphasis of Vayakhel. What that means practically, Hashem, we'll get to tomorrow, and we'll see how that relates to the half coin.
Is Shkol really read in both Vayakhel and together?
So no. So Shkolim can be read on other weeks as well, but when Shkolim is read on a Vayakhel Pekudei is only united in a year where it does not have two others. and then Parsha Shkolm is read in Parsha Shvat.
Mishpatim.
And a year like this,
Mishpatim.
Mishpat.
Mishpatim.
In the Jewry, we have two others. Vayakhel Pekud are always separate Torah portions, and yeah.